Israel's very pragmatic. If they think the whole world is going to be based on technology, then they're going to just say, okay, all kids need to learn how to code. It's a place where if you work hard, you can be successful and you can achieve great things and have a very, very high quality of life.
This is a Visegrad 24 series about the Israel-Hamas war.
We're here for another Visegrad interview with Reiner from Vine Ventures, a large VC fund started by you. Of course, we are in Tel Aviv right now, which usually is considered by practically everyone to be at the forefront of how to run an economy that is supposed to be high-tech, that is supposed to support startups, and in general, all these creative minds that you need to run a high-tech economy. How much have you been focusing on the Israeli market in recent years?
Substantially. I started Vine about 2.5 years ago, and in many ways, the purpose of it was, frankly, to be doing exactly what I'm doing right now, which is sitting in Tel Aviv, meeting some of the most talented, creative, relentless founders in the world, and providing them with the resources that they need within the US, Europe, and internationally to scale to very, very large markets with differentiated technology. It's been an incredible, incredible journey. It's been incredible to see how the Israeli tech market has evolved from what it was even from when I started my career at Insight Venture Partners, to Israel being a small component of their strategy, to now being effectively their only international office outside of New York. Their only office outside of New York, for that matter. To answer your question, we are investing heavily into Israel. We are even more bullish on Israel following the response from the community after October 7th, and nothing can stop us.
If you compare it to other hotspots in the world, whether it's California or Singapore or anywhere else, what are the particularities about Israel that make people here so talented in this area?
So it's multifaceted. I think it comes down to a few major factors. First is the military, second is the culture, and the third is the where they are on the map. I think, based on the military, obviously, when I was 18 years old, I was completely wasting my time at Northwestern University. If I was there now, I would probably be the result, or I would be on the back end of an anti-Semitic attack. And in Israel, they're going to the top, engineering units within the military, or leading units of soldiers that are, effectively defending freedom for the world.
Warfare today is very different from what it was 100 years ago. It's not just pulling something and have that artillery firing away, but
I watched the Napoleon movie a couple days ago, and just seeing
Did you hate it like the rest of the people?
I thought it was okay. I thought it was just okay. But just seeing the way that they fought back then, and we could speak about defense technology, which is something that we've been actively invested in. Seeing how they fought, they just stand there and shoot at each other as if they're just hoping that they don't get hit. So anyways.
Load that next musket.
I think culturally there's such a emphasis on achieving your purpose, reaching your potential, and frankly making a good living. It's an expensive country. Mm-hmm. And here in Israel, you have such support for entrepreneurialism. You have, what I would say, a safety net in the sense that you have socialized healthcare, socialized education, and incredible education. Some of the best universities in the world. The Weizmann Institute is the only foreign or non-U.S. top 10 research institution in the country, and so that's a really, really important piece of it. And then I think just thinking globally from day one is really important. And that's something that the Israelis have done a very good job.
Yeah, when you're a slightly smaller country, you got to think about capturing foreign markets immediately.
That's right. Probably not too dissimilar to Poland.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Maybe Estonia is a better example.
Estonia is usually the one that in Europe they like bringing up because they have also been doing a great job when it comes to the startup. I mean, everybody knows Skype, and most people know Bolt, and many other in Lithuania. We have Vinted, and yeah, there's a lot of examples. Poland is also up and coming.
Sure.
Benefiting a lot from the close geographic proximity with the Baltic states, naturally.
Yeah.
However, if we look at Israel, you mentioned this cooperation that you need some kind of, you need the university, you need the private sector, but also some state support. So there needs to be a nexus where all of these come together. And you say that this is the case here in Israel.
The state support is certainly there, but I think there's even opportunity to change that and to expand on that. I've written in the past about how Israel should be on the bleeding edge of AI and LLMs. I mean, some of the researchers here are the best researchers in the world, and yet there's almost, if you speak, as a part of our diligence or sourcing efforts at Vine Ventures, we speak to these researchers, and it's shocking the lack of funding that they have for GPUs and similar to be able to really stay at the bleeding edge of these fields.
There's also the issue, of course, of education. One of the things that they suffer from in Poland is that education levels are high when it comes to elementary, secondary school. But once we get to universities in Poland, the most talented people, they know that it's better to go and study somewhere overseas.
Yeah.
How does it look like when it comes to universities?
Not at all. And frankly, I believe that you're going to see a massive surge of Americans coming to university here, just given the quality, the cost, and the fact that they don't hate Jews.
Yeah.
So I think the education system here, I mean, I studied first semester at Tel Aviv University, wonderful experience. And I think that there's just a lot more opportunity to even expand it further.
And then also you have the culture of education, so to say that once your parents and your extended family expect you to do well in school, then usually you are forced to do it. I don't know about other parts such as in the US, but I know that in Sweden, for example, that is a little bit of a problem, that if you are a driven individual yourself, then sure, you will make it. But if you're one of those people that sometimes you just need that a little bit extra pressure and a little bit of extra push, then over there it's more of a like, if you don't really want to, then it's fine as well. You can do something else.
I think there's especially compared to America, there's a lot less coddling here. So I think, an average classroom, this might drive some parents crazy, but has, 30 students. Yeah. And so it's more like the real world. Like, I think in America, people leave their, their high schools and go to college, and then they get to the real world and they expect people to be hand-holding them through their life. And in Israel, at a very young age, you go to a school where you have to more or less fend for yourself. And then you go to the army, where you're literally in the army. And then you go to college, which is, a much different experience than college in the US, but, is very merit-based. And then, you kind of, a lot of people go to, have secondary education, or MBA or similar internationally. But I think there's really an incredible value to the whole system here.
When we look also at high tech or deep tech, naturally the military is one of the ways where you have innovation. Famously, we have DARPA in the US.
Absolutely.
That many of the inventions that we use today were often somehow a concept that was ended up at some DARPA desk 40 or 45 years ago. Here in Israel, there is also a lot of innovation going on in the military sector. Naturally, one example here is, it is not something that is officially acknowledged, but everybody knows that in Dimona, nuclear weapons were
I don't know what you're talking
built, created. I'm sure you don't. But there is this need for scientific advance, and especially Israel being a geographically small state, population isn't that big. You have neighbors that are very populous. you need to have that advantage in military technology. But for that, you need, again, the universities, the private sector, it all needs to come together. And now we have a new conflict, which is large. It is, and we don't know exactly where it will end. But we're hearing voices saying that this conflict as well will drive technological advancement. In what direction do you think this could go?
Autonomous.
Autonomous.
Autonomy.
Mm.
We've been very, very actively exploring the space. You know, we're an American firm. We're one of the only American seed venture capital firms here in Israel. And I think what that allows us to do is to have a different perspective than a lot of the local firms here. We've been, you know, looking at, and although we haven't made an investment yet, we've very much tried to make an investment in the defense sector here in Israel. You have organizations such as Mafat doing, you know, incredible innovation, and you know, as we've gone through our process of ideation and looking to find the next idea or entrepreneur to back, we've spoken with, you know, generals, heads of technological units, etc. And what we've learned is that it's not even that there's just one central like unit that, you know, kind of is doing innovation. It's really across the entire army. And you look at the Navy, there's a special, like, effectively like robotics unit in the Navy. There's one for the Air Force. Like, obviously it's in close relationship with Rafael and Elbit, etc. I think Israel has one of the most challenging military, I would say, objectives in the world, which is both to be a Western democracy and to avoid civilian deaths at all, really as much as humanly possible, but also dealing with groups that are used to fighting, you know, like they're in the jungle. And so Israel has to be a moral army, but they also have to be an effective army that's willing, that's able to, you know, eliminate massive threats. And so what that requires is incredible filtering of information, of vision, of text, etc., to be able to be very precise with their strikes that they unfortunately need to perform.
Yeah, the intelligence gathering is a key moment in such a conflict. Going back here to innovations again, in Poland, one of the things that we benefit a lot from is the fact that we have 40 million Poles in Poland, but another 20 million Poles in the diaspora, of which 10 million in the US. In Chicago, I think every fourth or fifth person has Polish roots. And Israel here, of course, is in a similar position. You have people, scientists who have been either educated or they had a career, various European countries or in the US. Does Israel try to attract some of these people to bring them back, and they bring some new points of view sometimes on various issues?
Israel wants to be a place that is performing at the highest level. And a place that's performing at the highest level is going to attract the best talent. I mean, not speaking about myself in you know, lahavdil, as we say, separately, like I chose to live in Israel versus anywhere else in the world. That's because of my business. That's because of the culture. That's because of this being the best place in the world to raise a family. You know, in Israel, you get the full package. Before this, I was taking a Zoom call sitting on the beach in January, right? So it's just quality of life, and you know, really a strong culture of family values. You see little kids everywhere. You know, it's really the whole package. What I would love to see is Israel appealing also to you know, folks from India and from even, you know, Singapore and, you know, Poland for that matter, who are at the bleeding edge of their own, you know, fields and want to kind of push the limit. And I think this is an incredible place to do it, an incredible place to raise a family.
And of course, all of these projects, they also need a lot. Of money.
Yes.
Funding is an issue. And And here, when it comes to R&D, in Poland, we suffer from the fact that it's at around 1% or even slightly below 1%. I believe Israel has one of the highest figures in the world, if not the highest. I think around 4 or 5% of GDP is spent on R&D every year.
I know that 17% of GDP is high tech. So I don't know what percent, but yeah, and that sounds right.
And this money is coming both from within Israel, but also foreign capital is flowing in.
Sure.
And this has been going on for quite a while now.
Yeah, and look, I think just to, elephant in the room, like there's been a massive drop in venture capital, growth equity funding as of late, but Israel is not any different from the rest of the world in that regard. And I frankly think that just given the resilience that we've seen through this conflict and similar, it's truly shown the world the power of an Israeli founder, of the Israeli market, of the Israeli community to come together and build really remarkable companies.
Which sectors would you say is Israel most famous for when it comes to these things? Pharmaceuticals we know about, software, security.
Cybersecurity, data technology, general business productivity software. I mean, anything that requires significant intellectual property to develop. We have historically been less good on the defense side on hardware, although I think that's starting to change. And then on the semiconductor side, I mean, Intel made its largest investment in the history of Israel, and just upped that investment in the middle of the war. And Intel's been incredible. They've given bonuses to their employees who have had family members affected and similar. And it's interesting to see how different companies respond. Unfortunately, Amazon has one of their employees hostages.
Yeah, they received a lot of criticism for not.
I don't think have done really much of anything. I think Microsoft has done an incredible job. It's incredible to think about how some of the largest companies in the world have some of their most important R&D happening here.
And it's also interesting considering that a lot of these companies, they take into consideration security. They don't want to place some of their most valuable investments close to any potential front lines or where things hit. I mean, of course, the debate about what's happening in Taiwan with the semiconductors.
Big deal. And it's a boon for Israel. I mean, there's a reason why Intel is building a massive chip manufacturing facility here.
Yeah, this nearshoring or reshoring process has been going on for a while. COVID really, it didn't start it, but it definitely accelerated it. Then we had that ship that got stuck in the Suez Canal, and also had some people thinking that maybe it's better to bring this closer to. And Israel, has to be said, is very close to Europe. You have also access to the sea.
Absolutely.
Meaning that things can be shipped in and out. When you look at these markets, because you are more or less halfway in between North America and East Asia, which are the two main poles of the world, how much traction do you have with East Asia? Have the South Koreans and the Japanese and also Chinese discovered Israel?
Absolutely. Look, I think, geopolitically, I think, unfortunately, China has shown its values in this conflict. But, look, money talks. Like, the trains are being built by Chinese companies. You have construction being done by Chinese companies. And I think, behind the scenes, our relationship with China is probably fairly good. I think, obviously, China and the U.S. I'll say this specific word, have chosen to be enemies. And I think Israel doesn't want to be an enemy with anyone. With Japan, there's a lot of collaboration. I mean, Toyota has an office here, and similar. I know of many software companies that have set up offices in in Japan for sales and development. Obviously, South Korea and Singapore have been great partners to Israel, and I hope that we can figure out a way to get a bunch of really talented South Asians, more Thai and everyone to come and work and fill in the gaps that this economy needs and unfortunately is not going to be able to fill with workers from the West Bank anymore, which is just such a sad thing because everyone always, said that prosperity and peace will come through economic collaboration, and it's proven to not be the case whatsoever. If you look at the car ramming and stabbing yesterday from someone from the West Bank, or you look at the fact that in Gaza, and on the outskirts of Gaza, that one of the they tried to get weapons from their weapons warehouse, and an individual had already informed the intruders of where that weapons warehouse is and had cleaned it dry. So it's really a tough spot, but I think it will be a great opportunity for Israel to start working with more Asian workers.
If we look at the youngest generation, again here in Poland, we are suffering a little bit. The fact is that back in communism, we were quite good in STEM. People didn't really want to go to the humanities because they knew that they were ideologically contaminated, so to say. So they were more focused on STEM. It's harder to falsify, even though today it seems that some people are trying. But also there was a certain push from the authorities as well that they wanted more people to focus on these things because they could lead to increased industrialization, or also for the weapons industry. But in recent years there has been a drop in PISA results, for example. How do the youngest Israelis perform? Are they still at the same high level that young people in Israel were 10 years ago?
I don't know exactly. I would imagine, yes, just seeing, like, for example, what I'm seeing from my kids' school, teaching coding and robotics and everything like that at such a young age. Look, Israel's very pragmatic. Like, if they think the whole world is going to be based on technology, then they're going to just say, okay, all kids need to learn how to code. And I think, again, it's a place where if you work hard and you work smart, you can be successful and you can achieve great things and have a very, very high quality of life. And I think there's very strong family culture, which, to me, versus education or anything, having, a solid family life, a rich family life is really the most important thing for, satisfaction. Now, you might ask, so then explain to me Elon Musk's book, or, Steve Jobs, or, some other folks. Obviously there are exceptions to that, but I would say that, generally on the average, it's probably a good recipe for, for success and satisfaction.
We have time for one final question. You mentioned earlier that when it comes to the future of warfare, that robotics and automation is probably the future. If we look at the economy in general, where do you think that the world economy is going? What fields will be what drives economic growth over the coming years?
There will be economic growth associated with nearshoring to the U.S., which you spoke about. I think there will be immense economic growth from robotics and automation across that trend of nearshoring, whereby labor ends up being the most expensive input, and so what can you automate in that regard? I think that there's going to be really massive unlocks from effectively continued peace and prosperity between countries such as Saudi Arabia and Israel, which will happen. The more stability that you have in this region, the better off the entire global economy is. I know that's not exactly answering your question, but we're in Israel right now, so I'm going to answer it that way. And look, I think, knowledge workers are being greatly enhanced with AI and LLMs, and I think that will be a huge boon to productivity and will be deflationary.
And what about energy? Because of course, here in the region, maybe for Israel less, but if we look in the Arabian Peninsula, in the Gulf, energy for a long time was driving it.
Yeah.
Will we still rely on these fossil
I sure hope
resources?
not. I mean, for no other reason than just not providing any sort of financial capacity to Qatar or Iran. I think nuclear is a wonderful solution. I think geothermal is a wonderful solution. And I think here in Israel, I hope we don't have to use that natural gas. I hope we can I know it's a crazy thought, but I hope we can really power this economy with natural resources.
Also, flying in here, we did see you do have a lot of solar panels.
Yeah.
And you do have a lot of sun over here.
Exactly.
So that seems to also be a potential for the future.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming and
appreciate all the
discussing
work
these
you're
things.
doing and yeah, I really enjoy following you guys on Twitter. So thank you for the time.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.